Please welcome John Fogerty. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Howdy.
This is terrific to have you on Midday. Now, I've got to say, the brilliant music you've produced. How does a boy from California get so involved in music from the Deep South?
Well, I really don't have a thorough answer to that. I just know that I always loved the music and the culture and the lore of the South of the States, and it's kind of came out, to me it came natural. I didn't really think about it, it just sort of came out without thinking about it.
Now, last year I understand you toured and performed those songs for the first time in about 10 years. Why so long?
Well, I really was finding my muse, as they say. Funny you should mention that, but at some point around the late 80s, early 90s, I took a lot of visits down to Mississippi, actually. Trying to, I guess in a sense you might say, get re-inspired. I was trying to figure out, you know, American blues, basically, which is a big part of my early influence. And I kept making these little journeys down to Mississippi and, you know, taking music with me and a lot of books, a lot of notebooks and a camera. Just trying to get everything sort of thought out and aligned, I guess, or realigned in my mind, because I really never knew what happened or who came first and who came second, that sort of thing. Those trips had a big effect on the music that came out of me later, meaning 1996, 97.
Mm-hmm. So when you think back to the songs, for instance, like Proud Mary, do you remember exactly when you wrote songs like that?
Well, yeah, I remember how I felt. That's one of my more visible recollections, actually. As you know, I had, let's say, dealings with the U.S. Army and the government, and I had struggled to get released. And one day there was a document sitting on the steps to my little apartment house. Who actually had been there a few days. I just hadn't bothered to open it because it said official business U.S. government. I didn't have a clue it'd be for me. Anyway, I opened it. It was my honorable discharge from the Army, and this was something I had hoped and dreamed for, and I was overjoyed. I actually went out on the lawn there and did a couple of cartwheels and then went right in the house and basically finished writing the song I'd been kind of working on for a few days. The song, of course, was Proud Mary. I mean, with kind of renewed energy, I was able to sing the lines, "Left a good job in the city," you know. The funny thing, I mean, I blocked a lot of that stuff out, as you probably have heard, because there was quite a bit of unpleasantness connected to the success part of my being in Creedence Clearwater. But when I finally was able to sort of step around that part, mostly through the wisdom of my beautiful wife, Julie, I found that the little boy, the guy who had written the songs, was still waiting there for me. And he feels exactly the same about music as he always did.
Hmm. Mentioning that legal minefield, it really was quite horrific. Did you really lose ownership of all those songs you wrote? How unfair is that?
It's really an unfair situation, and the best way to characterize it, you know, I didn't lose something. I never had the ownership in the first place. I had signed a document that I thought gave the record company the right to use the songs for 3 years. No, it gave them the ownership to any songs I would write during those 3 years. And of course, as you know, most of Creedence Clearwater's career took place during a 3-year period in the late 60s, and which means all those songs I wrote are owned by somebody else. I still wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, and you know, it still blows my mind, but it happened. It is the way it is, and I've tried to move beyond that now.
Well, you're not the first star to ever really get done over in a legal battle. In fact, just recently we had Julian Lennon on the program, who is giving big lessons to his brother Sean, saying just read the fine print.
Well, I'm sure he ought to know. Yeah, it's almost it's almost like POWs sitting around, you know, and having gallows humor, I guess. You could get all the guys in a room who have ever been screwed by various music business sharks, and I'm sure you'd find some great stories. I mean, we'd all be miserable, but everybody'd be trying to top everybody else. Oh, wait till you hear this one, mate, you know.
Oh, it is. You shouldn't laugh, because it is a tragedy. But it's hard to believe that Creedence broke up in 1972. Your songs have been done, you know, by lots of people, from cabaret to recording. But you must have heard some very interesting versions of songs that you hold near and dear.
Well, one of the most unique is Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, singing Proud Mary. That's a very interesting version of that song.
I haven't been privy to that one.
How do you do that? Whatever that is.
You do it very well.
Yeah. Well, he recorded it shortly after the Creedence version. I mean, at least he knew a good song when he heard it, you might say. You know, because of Star Trek, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I vaguely remember the album cover. You know, Leonard Nimoy sings whatever was the title, without ears, and I know that Proud Mary was on there, but I mean it hadn't become really the classic yet. This was probably still in 1969 when he did his version.
Of all your wonderful songs, have you ever heard a version that really made you want to cringe? I mean, there's been some cabaret versions. In fact, I've probably inflicted one or two when I used to sing as well, John.
Well, you know what? I used to do my Vegas impersonation. I mean it in a very kind of sarcastic way, you know, hey, ho. And I would go around singing Proud Mary, you know, left a good job. And then sometime after that...
Do another Vegas version for us, John. I love that.
Well, the funny thing was, here on American television, Bill Murray became very famous on Saturday Night Live doing his lounge lizard guy, and he would always, basically, he was, you know, he had never seen me do mine in the shower, of course, but he was a dead ringer for my own Vegas rendition of Proud Mary.
Well, you're coming out on a tour. You've also got the new album called Premonition. It's a bit of old, bit of new. What makes it special for John Fogerty?
Basically that it's a collection of songs, most of which I have written. There's really only 2 songs here that I didn't write. Susie Q and I Put a Spell on You. But it's a collection that goes throughout my whole career. And also it's live. And while I didn't realize it at the time, I think at the time that I recorded Premonition, I now believe that, you know, for a lot of folks, they may not, I mean, some people may not even know I'm still here, still around. You know, the rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated. And it kind of shows me, you know, still at the top of my game doing rock and roll, because that's, you know, that's really what I was raised to do. All the values that I hold dear were, of course, honed and learned through the early days of rock and roll. So that's what's coming out of me. I think that ethic, if you, for lack of a better word, is what comes out of the album Premonition. Well,
John, Australia is dying to see the rock and roll guy himself, John Fogerty, live in concert. We've got some dates coming up on your screen. There you go. The Entertainment Centre in Sydney, in Brisbane, moving on to Melbourne Park, and of course to Adelaide. I really hope you enjoy the trip, and don't forget the new album, John Fogerty's new album, Premonition. And indeed, it's a terrific pleasure to talk to you. We really thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, John Fogerty.